This video continues the series on the Taming Bigfoot Carbon Footprint Calculator. This time we're going to focus on the competitions. Taming Bigfoot competitions are an exciting and educational and fun way to engage the community and organize them as teams that compete against each other to learn and explore different ways of reducing their carbon footprint. And that was the original purpose of the calculator. These competitions have been run in a number of areas in Washington State. They've all been very successful and well received by the community. And the website here and the mobile app that will be covered in another video support those competitions by helping people who are participating in the competition see how their team is doing, not just how they individually are doing, but how their team is doing and how their team is faring against other teams. And that's what I want to cover in this video. Now, I've already logged in as one of the past participants in the competition in Edmonds. We just started on the home page. In past videos, we've covered how to enter data, how to generate reports about that data. This time we're going to look at under the competition. But before I go there, I just want to point out that under help, there is a competition guide. So if you're interested in organizing a Taming Bigfoot competition or reading about what's involved in organizing one, this is where you should go. It was written by the organizers of the original competition in Jefferson County, and it just provides some advice, some illustrations of how you may want to illustrate some of the progress that teams are making about their footprint, the size of their footprint, and how they're faring relative to each other in the different categories, transportation and home energy. Some of what hopefully you're more familiar with now that you've experienced the carbon footprint calculator. So a very hopefully informative and helpful guide there for running a competition. But let's say you're involved in a competition already. Under the competition tab, let's see how your team is doing. As I said, you already know how to look and see how you were doing individually, but this person was on the Climate Eyes team in the Edmonds competition. You can look at the roster of people, and you can see how they're doing relative to the baseline. Each competition has a baseline period where the team conducts their lives sort of in business as usual to gather some baseline data, and then there's a period during the competition where each team tries to reduce their footprint as much as possible. So this is the sort of up-to-date version picture of how this team is doing in reducing their carbon footprint relative to their baseline. And again, the three major sectors of home energy, transportation, and food and shopping. If you wanted to see how the individuals on your team were doing, this is how you can look at that. For each individual, there are two bars. The top one is the baseline period, I think, and then the second one is the reduction period. So you can see which team member is performing the best in terms of the overall team performance. So that's how to look at your team. And then how is your team doing relative to the other teams? Again, this is the Edmonds competition. Oh, I should say, before I get there, you can expand each of these. Every time you see a down arrow, you can expand it and get in more and more numeric information about how you're doing, how your team is doing in this particular case. So we can collapse those and collapse that. But let's see how the team is doing relative to the other teams. Now this competition is already over. This was the one in Edmonds. And they had about a dozen different teams. And Climate Eyes was the one that this person was a member of. And you'll see again that the baseline period on top, and then the second bar for each of these teams is their performance during the reduction period. And Climate Eyes was sort of in the middle of the pack. Had some substantial reduction in their carbon footprint, but very similar to many of the other teams. Some teams weren't quite as successful. Granite here actually increased their carbon footprint during the reduction phase. And you can see here with a scale how large their total team carbon footprint was. If you relate more to the numbers, you can certainly get that. So say for the Climate Eyes, their carbon footprint as a team during the baseline period, which was 30 days, was 9,237 pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent. They reduced that to 8,121. So they reduced it by over 1,000 pounds of carbon dioxide, which was an 88%, which reduced it to only 88%. And if you wanted to see how they did in each of the sectors, this is how they did in each of the sectors. And of course, if you wanted to see how everybody did in their sectors, you can expand each of these for each of the teams. So as the competition, this is more interesting, I think, as the competition is underway, you can keep track of how your team is doing relative to the other teams. So as I said, there's more information about running a competition here if you're so inclined. But hopefully you'll have the opportunity to experience one of the competitions yourself. Thank you.